When one falls, we continue. When one falls. When one falls.
Throughout Clair Obscur,
Not if,
the expeditions
when.
always pushed forward no matter what. The mission is the Paintress. But after discovering the first expedition journal, one couldn't stop wondering. What became of the past expeditions? What occurred during the fracture? What really happened in the past? And now all we want to do is explore this beautiful world to find all these journals. So, for now, let's set the mission for the Monolith aside and take some time for an exploration to uncover the past. We will explore how the expedition journals help us see the past. And in the last part, we will draw the Clair Obscur's historical timeline together. A little bit of background here. Clair Obscur takes place in a world with a divine figure, the Paintress. She holds the brush that determines the fate of all people. Each year, she paints a number onto the monolith, one less than the last. The number became a calendar for people. Start with year 100, then 99, and so forth. Those with the age match the number vanish from existence. They gommage away into petals, into chroma. Facing extinction, the people of Lumière set out on the expedition to the main continent. The mission is simple: to kill the Paintress and end this vicious cycle. The game begins in the city of Lumière Monolith, year 34, just before it turns to year 33. We play Gustav, a member of Expedition 33. We witness the gamage of his ex-girlfriend, and later, the farewell party for Expedition 33. At the Expedition party, we learn two important information about the Clair Obscur world. The first is the fracture. The fracture happened 67 years ago at Monolith year 100. It was when the current isolated Lumière got separated and thrown out to sea. The city was destroyed and people were missing. The second is the Expedition 0, the first expedition that set out in the Monolith year 100. They were the only expedition that had survivors return to Lumière. So, basically, Lumière got separated, people are dying fast, and they have no clues about the outside world. This setting arouses our curiosity about the past because the past is lost. A distant history is missing. The illusion of time abyss. As Mark Wolf, the author of Building Imaginary Worlds, wrote, a time abyss instead calls attention to itself as a gap. Its enormity raising more questions than it answers, generating speculation, specifically as to how the world moved from the former state to the current one. But 67 years does not feel that distant. At least to us, with a lifespan of almost 100 years. Now, let us imagine the perspective of a Lumière citizen. Let's imagine from Gustav's perspective for a second. Gustav was born 35 years after the fracture, in Monolith year 65. The oldest people in that year would be 64 years old. Anyone in that year who was younger than 30 never lived through the fracture. That's half of the population already, and those who experienced the fracture firsthand were probably too young to remember anything. Gustav grew up amongst a whole new generation, and by the time Gustav turned 15, all the people in Lumière were born after the fracture. Nobody ever witnessed what it was like before the fracture. Nobody ever sees a gestural, never sees a grandies. Gustav and his friends only learn these things through the myth passed down through generations, and add in all the lost expeditioners from the past 50 years. All were dead on the main continent, lots and lots and lots of them. The population of Lumière probably dropped to just a tiny fraction. So, by the time Gustav left Lumière with the Expedition 33, everything was lost and was just a distant past. 67 years is really a long time from the Lumière citizens' perspectives.
Yeah, decades and decades in front of us. Guess this is how it feels to be immortal.
One of the clues to the past are the expedition journals. During our journey through the main continent, we will find them scattered throughout the world wherever these expeditions came to an end. These journals recorded their last thoughts or last moments of their life.
Isabel of 36. Winter souls drift through the night and land soft upon the moonlit vale, whose snowy shrouds hold tight the hope I'd whispered once long ago.
These journals are not just separated lore, but they tell stories along with the environmental surroundings them. The environmental aspects are important here. They make us see a clearer picture of what happened in the past. The experience of walking up to the journals, reading them, and looking around again to imagine their last moment. It makes you see that place a little bit differently. When we trace down these journals, we saw the development of the past attempts leading to the present. The early expeditions were full of technology surpassing that of the current Lumière. They flew to the main continent with giant airships. They also drove cars around the continent. They had submarines exploring the ocean and large siege engines to fight the Paintress. These past expeditions must be very large-scale expeditions. One thing that stood out to me was the wheel, a giant Ferris wheel carrying people across the sea to the Monolith. I thought Gustave was joking with Ciel when he mentioned this, but it turned out to be true. The latest journal that mentions any kind of engineering efforts is just gliders. Lumière is indeed declining.
No, actually, my guess is this was Expedition 50. You see, they created this giant wheel, and they tried to cross the world.
Okay, Professor.
The later expeditions, though, focus more on their own skills and strategy to survive and fight with Nevrons. They tried mental weapons like music, which turned out to be very effective. Unfortunately, they landed at Serene. Some disguised themselves by suiting up inside Nevrons. Again, ineffective. And the legendary Expedition 60. I will dive into them later. Many expeditions mention the use of Pictos and efforts to upgrade them, which led up to the point when Gustave's team came up with the Lumina converter, the key ability to the success of the Expedition 33. But not all expeditions were fruitful. There were countless deaths. Some were so tragic, but some were just pure hilarious. For those who want to read and listen to all the expedition journals, I also compiled all the voiceovers in another video. The link is in the description. So, after I collected all the journals, I tried to piece them together with the information from dialogues throughout the main and optional story. And I come up with a speculative timeline of Clair Obscur's missing history.
There's still too much we don't understand.
I'm tired. Can we camp first?
But before that, let's take a break back at camp. At the camp, we get a chance to rest. We regroup and we chat. This mechanism of taking a break of mind really reflects what it's like to stop the game, join the forum, or Discord to discuss what really happened. Time at the camp is when we discover the answers to our questions, sometimes asked directly by our friends.
How are you alive and not...
Old? I don't know exactly, but some of us stopped aging.
These help us to piece together the missing history. Another thing is that we get to rest our bodies and clean up. These small things really give us a sense of relaxation at the camp. When we first reach the camp, all the characters are still covered in grime and blood and dirt. But after some time had passed, we cleaned ourselves up and we rested. It readied us for the next morning.
And then it's gonna take a few hours, and then we make a stop.
All right, let's see what we can draw from all the information we have. I've created this timeline to visualize all that happened before the beginning of the Expedition 33. You can download the full, detailed timeline here. It all started with the Descendre family. Renoir, the father, Aline, the mother, and their children, Clea, Verso, and Alicia, a family of painters. All painters have the ability to give life to their art. Each canvas they paint becomes a world. The lives they paint have their own agency. They have souls. Painters can enter into the canvas and play gods. They can create. They can erase. When Verso was a child, he used to play in his own canvas with Clea, a canvas full of his imagination, his favorite doll, Esquier, his pets, Monoco and Noco, creatures from mannequins and paintbrushes, the Gestrel, and the Grandies. Verso would ride Esqui while Clea rode Francois. Together, they took on adventures in the canvas. But one day an incident happened. Rivals to the painters are the writers. The writers tricked Alicia and trapped her inside the burning manor. Verso sacrificed himself to save her. But Alicia got badly disfigured and lost her voice. The Descendry family cannot get over this loss. Later, Aline distanced herself from the family. She buried herself within Verso's canvas, the same canvas that Verso used to play in, the canvas that filled with his imagination. A part of his soul resides in this world. Aline painted life into this world by creating Lumière, its people, and her own replica family, so she can be with Verso again in this world. Life in the canvas is nothing but happiness. Aline, with her painted family, lived happily with Monoco and Esquier. The people of Lumière lived alongside the Gestrals and the Grandies. The Gestrals lived in many of their villages, while the Grandies lived high up on the mountain. Prime Renoir worried that Primaline was spending too much time inside the canvas. She was also needed at the Painter Council. So, he entered the canvas to bring her back to the real world. She refused to leave. Prime Renoir tried to force her out of the canvas. He painted 4 accents to help him fight Primaline. These accents represent his family. The visage represents Verso. The serene represents Aline. Holler, a dead accent at the center of Old Lumière, represents Clea. And Reacher, an accent at the top of the reach, represents Alicia. In the end, Prime Renoir managed to trap Primaline atop the Monolith while he became trapped beneath it. Their clash tore the world apart. Lumière got separated from the main continent. Gestral villages destroyed. The Grandis were forced down the mountain. Only a tiny fraction of them survived. This event became known as the Fracture. Trapped and weakened, Prime Renoir had little power left, but he tried to regain his strength to defeat Primaline. He wiped out her oldest creation, the oldest people of Lumière, and absorbed their chroma for himself. Year by year, his power grew. Meanwhile, Primaline, now known as the Paintress, tried to protect the people of Lumière. But her strength faded over time. Unable to save everyone, she began to warn those she could not protect by painting their age onto the monolith. This was the beginning of the Gommage. During this time, the painted Descendry family had no idea where Primaline was missing and faced the same fate as other Lumière citizens. Monoco also died during this time. At year 100, Expedition 0 set out from Lumière. The objective is to search and rescue those missing. Painted Renoir and Verso joined this expedition to find Primaline. At the same time, Prime Clea from the real world entered the canvas to bring her parents back home. They met at the barrier of the monolith.
Maybe we can just cross it.
Prime Clea told the expedition the truth. The world is a canvas. There is a godlike entity that tried to erase all life from this world. Learning this, the expedition knows they must kill Prime Renoir out of the canvas and free the Paintress, hoping she can bring back everyone from death. But Prime Clea would not let that happen. She killed all the expeditioners except Painted Renoir and Verso. The two learned that they are immortal. They went back to Lumière and lied about what had happened. What they found back at home shattered them. Painted Clea was missing. Prime Clea visited the painted Descendry Manor while Painted Renoir and Verso were on the expedition. There she met with Painted Alicia and her painted version. Prime Clea hates that version of herself so much. She abducted Painted Clea from the manor and painted over her. She turned her into a mindless painter, endlessly painting Nevrons. These Nevrons' purpose is to kill all expeditioners and trap their chroma from returning to Primaline. Painted Renoir and Verso helped rebuild the city and built a shield protecting the city of Lumière. Later, they joined another search and rescue expedition. Julie, Verso's lover, was also a member of this journey. During the journey, Painted Renoir and Verso told the other expeditioners that the Paintress is the solution, not the problem. However, before reaching the Monolith, they encountered an ambush from Nevrons. They survived. During the ambush, Julie saw Verso die, but found him later unconscious and alive. She started to become suspicious about what happened to the Expedition Zero and what they said about the Paintress. Julie and her friends abducted and interrogated Painted Renoir and Verso, leaving them no choice but to kill all of their team.
I wish I could talk to you.
After that, Painted Renoir and Verso never returned to Lumière. They took Painted Alicia with them and worked to stop Prime Renoir and protect the Paintress. They closely monitored each expedition, sabotaging those who couldn't be persuaded and joining those they believed could be trusted. They also sought to kill the Axons to gain the power needed to break the barrier. Let us go back in time a little bit to the Expedition Zero. Simon, Painted Clea's lover, was also a part of this expedition. He disappeared during the journey. Separated from the others, he met Prime Clea, who deceived him. She convinced him that to save his beloved Painted Clea, he must break the barrier into the Monolith and kill the Paintress. She also gave him the power to defeat the Axon, the one that represents herself. At the Monolith, he met Primaline and learned the truth. To save his lover, he must slay Prime Renoir. He then descended to the bottom of the Monolith, but he failed. Prime Renoir was more powerful than him. He was trapped in the abyss deep beneath the Monolith. Monoco also got reincarnated after the fracture by Monoco. He later joined Painted Verso to stop Prime Renoir. During these years, there was political conflict in Lumière. The council wanted to act cautiously and conserve resources within the city, while another group believed that exploring outside could be the key to saving Lumière. So, there were not many expeditions during this time. However, in year 84, after Lumière people started to realize the dire situation they were in, they resumed the expeditions. But this time, their objective was the Paintress. The disappearance of Painted Renoir and Verso also raised suspicions about the true fate of Expedition Zero. So, the Expedition 84 landed at Dark Beach and tried to retrace the Expedition Zero route. To their surprise, they found no trace or sign of the previous expedition anywhere. They ended up in the area called the Fountain. In year 78, the first rogue expedition stole the Lumière's airships and flew to the main continent against the Council's will. They expressed their disagreement boldly in their journal.
Maxence. Stealing the airships. But we knew we had to try, and it worked.
In this era, the political conflict had already settled in Lumière. The Council fully supported the expeditions and planned them ahead for the future. Lumière set out the two most crucial expeditions of all time, Expedition 69 and Expedition 70. They were designed not to reach the Paintress, but to lay the foundation for the future. Expedition 70 set most, if not all, the grapples throughout the main continent, while Expedition 69 drew maps, prepared the trail, and set climbing handholds. The journal of Expedition 70 was found inside the Monolith, which is unlikely since there was an unbreakable barrier at the Monolith. Some speculate that they got assistance from a Grandis, which raises another question. How can a Grandis break into the barrier? Another more believable theory is that when Simon broke through the barrier into the Monolith, it might not have been immediately restored. Expedition 70 may have entered during this period, and the barrier was reconstructed afterwards. Other notable expeditions are Expedition 66 and 63. Expedition 66 might have achieved nothing, but they managed to meet Esquia. Unintentionally, Esquia convinced them to eat poisonous mushrooms.
Expedition 66, Marcel. Damn you, Esquia, and your stupid mushrooms.
And Expedition 63 had cars, which they drove them a little bit too fast.
Damn it, Hector. I told you to slow down!
In year 65, Gustav, Lune, and Ciel were born. 32 years later, they will become crucial members of Expedition 33.
Know that Lumière fights with you.
In year 60, something extraordinary happened. The legendary Expedition 60 trained their bodies to perfection, reaching the pinnacle of human performance. With just sheer human strength, they broke through the barrier and reached the Paintress. They remain the only expedition that can break the barrier without outside help. There, they learned the truth about the Paintress and set out to confront Prime Renoir. But even with their extraordinary muscles, they failed. William, at the age of 59, swam back from the Monolith to warn Lumière of what they had learned, but he couldn't reach it in time. In year 58, Painted Renoir, Verso, and Monoco joined an expedition and went as far as Old Lumière. They met a dead axe in there. It was slain by Simon a long time ago. This expedition also met the Curator and learned about the barrier and how to break it. But they failed among the ruins of Old Lumière, leaving Painted Verso and Monoco with bitter memories of the place.
Hey, come on. Hey, look, I know we failed.
After year 58, conflict over the expeditions had resurfaced. The people of Lumière appeared to support the funding of these expeditions, but deep down, some quietly disagreed. Those who openly opposed the council, known as the dissenters, were banished by being forced to join the expeditions. The council also viewed the missions as failures, using them as a means to remove their opponents. Many of the expeditioners during this time recorded regret and longing for life in Lumière, especially Expedition 54, which was made up of the dissenters. They did not set out for the Paintress, but to build a new Lumière on the main continent. Another notable expedition is Expedition 56. They were attacked by Painted Verso, Renoir, and Alicia. Later, they managed to capture Painted Alicia and were about to torture her. Painted Renoir and Verso arrived just in time to rescue her, killing all the expeditioners brutally. The two most important developments in this period came from outside the canvas. Prime Clea entered the canvas again and convinced Verso to join her in bringing Primaline back home. Verso changed his mind and walked away from Painted Renoir. Since then, the Painted Descendre family separated. Painted Renoir and Alicia lived in the manor with a form of Primaline. They protected the Paintress and intercepted any expedition that aimed to reach her. While Painted Verso with Monoco tried to return Primaline to the real world, he kept assisting the expeditions to reach her. And another event that changed everything happened in year 49. In the outside world, Prime Clea and Alicia decided together to hide the canvas. They hoped that once they succeeded in bringing their mother back, she wouldn't be able to go back in. Prime Alicia also decided to enter the canvas to rescue her parents. But with her inexperience, she was overwhelmed by Aline's power inside the canvas and washed away.
Stay calm. Don't let it take control of you. Calm, Alicia, or it'll paint over you. What an auspicious start. Well, you're about to be reborn in this world as one of Aline's creations. Have fun.
She was reborn as Maëlle without her original memories in year 49. Prime Clea also entered the canvas to ask Painted Verso to look after Maëlle. From year 50 until year 33, Lumière had fewer resources. Expeditions focus more on exploring possibilities and strategies to enhance their chance against Nevrons. They try to defense-only strategy, a drunken fighting style, disguise as Nevrons, and focus on upgrading their Pictos. The only major expeditions were Expedition 50 and 43. Expedition 50 traveled the continent with the giant Ferris wheel, while Expedition 43 built submarines to reach the Monolith via the sea. They both used large resources and failed. In year 46, Lune's parents joined the expedition. She believed her parents would succeed until the Monolith year turned to 45. That night, she first met with Evièl. In year 43, Monoco left painted Verso to help the Grandis and settled inside Monoco station. They meet again 10 years later. In year 39, Pierre, Ciel's husband, died in an accident on an island near Lumière. Ciel tried to drown herself. She swam far away from Lumière until she could no longer swim. She did not know yet that she was pregnant. Esquier rescued her. The next day, Ciel woke up and found that she had lost the child.
Next day, I was alive. What I didn't know then, what the hospital told me, that I had lost the child.
Expeditions in this period were not very successful. Expedition 37 cannot resist the challenge at Justral Beach and spends the rest of their life there. Expedition 34, though, adopted an elemental focus strategy, which was developed alongside Gustav's Lumina converter idea.
Looks like our elemental focus strategy
Then comes year 33. Gustav, Maël, Lune, Ciel, and the other members of Expedition 33 began their journey to the Monolith to end the Paintress once and for all. So, that's it. That is my personal take on what happened in the 67 years leading up to the beginning of the game. Clair Obscur created a lost history with an illusion of time abyss and gave clues here and there for us to explore. The gaps left are for us to fill in, to piece information together and speculate. And that makes us love to explore the world of Clair Obscur, Expedition 33. Thank you for watching. If you have your own take on what happened in Clair Obscur, please share it with us below. I also created a video with all the Expedition's journals voiceover, which can be a reference along with this video. And don't forget, you can get a full, detailed timeline on my Patreon page. The link is in the description. See you in the next video.